The crystal walls of the Galactic Council chamber shook with fear. Ambassador Keel's transparent body flickered like a dying light as he stood before the assembled delegates. His people, the Altari, were known for their calm nature. But today, terror filled his voice. "They are coming," Keel whispered. His words echoed through the vast chamber where representatives from 47 different species sat in their specialized environments. Some floated in gas clouds, others rested in pools of liquid metal, and a few existed as pure energy contained in glowing spheres. Counselor Thane, an ancient being who had served the Council for over 3,000 years, leaned forward. His 6 eyes focused on the Altari ambassador. "Who is coming, Keel? Speak clearly." "The Vorthan swarm," Keel replied. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant humming of translation devices seemed to pause. "They have consumed 17 of our worlds. Billions of my people are dead. The crystal cities of Altara Prime? They are gone. Nothing remains but empty space where our homeworld once existed." A delegate from the Nexari Empire, a being made of living silicon, spoke up. "That is impossible. The Vorthan were contained in the outer rim sectors. Our military forces guard those borders." Keel turned toward the silicon creature. His crystal form began to crack with stress. "Your military forces are dead, Counselor Vex 9. The swarm broke through the Nexari defense line 6 cycles ago. They consumed your ships, your crews, even the metal of your weapons. Nothing stops them." Panic rippled through the chamber. Delegates began talking at once in dozens of different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the chaos of voices. Some representatives were already preparing to leave, ready to flee to their home systems. "Order! Order!" Thane shouted, his voice booming through speakers. "We must remain calm and think clearly." But calmness was hard to find. The Vorthan swarm was legend, a nightmare from the dark edges of the galaxy. Ancient records spoke of worlds stripped bare, of entire star systems left as empty husks. Most council members had believed these stories were just myths told to frighten young ones. A luminal delegate existing as pure energy within a containment field, pulsed with urgent light patterns. "If the Nexari forces have fallen, then no military in the galaxy can stop them. The swarm grows stronger with each world they consume. They turn the resources of conquered planets into more ships, more soldiers, more death." "What of the Zephyrian fleet?" asked another delegate. "Surely their bioships can match the swarm's organic technology." Keel's form dimmed further. "The Zephyrians made contact with the swarm 12 cycles ago. We received one transmission from their fleet admiral. They are not like us. They do not think as we think. They do not fight as we fight. They are death itself." That was the last we heard. The chamber erupted again. Some delegates demanded immediate evacuation protocols. Others called for the activation of ancient defense systems that had not been used in millennia. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Thane raised his multiple arms for quiet. When the chamber settled, he spoke in a voice heavy with age and wisdom. "In my long service to this council, I have seen many threats come and go. Wars have been fought, peace has been made, and the galaxy has endured. But if what Ambassador Keel says is true, we face something different, something that threatens not just our governments or our trade routes, but our very existence." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded the Nexari delegate. "Should we simply wait for death to arrive?" Thane was quiet for a long moment. His ancient eyes seemed to look beyond the chamber, beyond the present crisis, into memories long buried. "There are records," he said slowly, "files that have been sealed for over 2 centuries, information about species that exist outside our normal contact protocols." "You speak in riddles, old one," said the luminal delegate. "I speak of the restricted archives," Thane replied. "Files that detail worlds and species deemed too dangerous for regular diplomatic contact. During the Great Survey, our exploration fleets encountered systems that were difficult to categorize. Worlds where life exists in conditions that should be impossible." Another delegate, a methane-breathing creature from the outer systems, gurgled through its translator. "What does this have to do with our current crisis?" Thane activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Star charts appeared, showing sectors of space marked with warning symbols. These are classified as Deathworld systems, planets where the conditions are so harsh, so violent that life should not exist. Yet our surveys detected not just life, but intelligent life, civilizations that somehow thrived in environments that would kill most council species within minutes. The chamber stared at the display. Red warning markers dotted the star map, each one representing worlds that official policy had deemed too dangerous to contact. "You suggest we call upon unknown aliens from hostile worlds?" asked the Nexari delegate. "How is this better than facing the swarm?" "Because," Thane said quietly, "sometimes the only way to fight a monster is to find a bigger monster." Keel stepped forward, his crystal form crackling with desperate energy. "I do not care what these unknown beings are like. I do not care if they are dangerous or violent or impossible to understand. My people are dying. Entire worlds are being consumed. If there is even the smallest chance that someone somewhere can stop the swarm, then we must try." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some delegates argued that contacting unknown species violated every safety protocol the Council had established. Others insisted that desperate times called for desperate measures. Through it all, reports continued to arrive from the outer systems. More worlds fallen, more fleets destroyed. The swarm grew closer with each passing hour. Finally, when exhaustion had settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket, Thane called for a vote. "The question before us is simple," he announced. "Do we maintain our isolation protocols and face the swarm with our remaining forces? Or do we reach out to the unknown and pray that someone will answer?" The vote was close. 24 species voted in favor of the desperate plan. 23 voted against. The deciding vote came from the smallest delegation in the chamber, a single representative from a minor trade world who simply said, "What have we got to lose?" As the chamber began to empty, Thane remained at his station. He pulled up files that had not been accessed in 200 years. His eyes scanned through survey reports, warning classifications, and threat assessments until he found what he was looking for. "Sol 3, he whispered to himself. "Third planet from a yellow star. Classification, Class 12 Death World. Recommended contact status, prohibited. Species designation, human. Additional notes, extreme caution advised. Inhabitants show unprecedented adaptation to hostile conditions. Further study not recommended." Thane's hands trembled as he prepared the emergency transmission protocols. They were about to send a distress signal to a species that their own survey teams had deemed too dangerous to approach. But as another report arrived telling of 3 more worlds consumed by the swarm, he knew they had no choice. The message was simple: "We are dying. Please help." As the transmission launched toward the Sol system, Thane wondered if they had just saved the galaxy or doomed it to an even worse fate. In the distance, space itself seemed to shimmer as reality prepared for what was coming. Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the command center of United Earth Defense Command, watching the stars through the massive viewport. The facility hung in orbit above Earth, a testament to human engineering and determination. Below them, the blue and green world turned slowly, peaceful and beautiful in the morning light. "Sir, we're receiving something unusual," called out Communications Officer Park from her station. "It's coming from outside our local system group." Hyunwoo turned toward her. In his 40 years of service, they had never received messages from beyond their explored territories. Humanity had spent the last 2 centuries expanding carefully, building colonies on Mars, Europa, and a dozen other worlds within 50 light-years of Earth. But they had always been alone. "Put it through," he ordered. The message that filled the command center was unlike anything they had ever heard. Strange sounds mixed with what might have been words, but in no language any human had ever encountered. The translation computers worked frantically, trying to make sense of the alien communication. "The computers are having trouble," Park reported. "It's like the message was designed for completely different types of minds. But I'm getting fragments, something about worlds dying, civilizations ending, and a request for military aid." Commander Ji-eun stepped forward from where she had been reviewing training reports. She was the head of Earth's Deathworld Corps, the elite military unit trained to operate in the harshest environments humanity could create. Her people could fight in vacuum, survive in acid rain, and operate in temperatures that would freeze or boil normal humans. "Military aid?" she asked. "From us? How would aliens even know we exist?" "There's more," Park continued, adjusting her instruments. "I'm detecting coordinates. It looks like star charts, showing locations outside our known space. And there's something else. The message mentions Class 12 Deathworld inhabitants." The command center fell quiet. Class 12 Deathworld was how the early survey teams had classified Earth when they first began exploring space. It was a joke among the military, a way of saying that their home planet was so dangerous that it was amazing anything could live there. Dr. Su-Jin, the facility's head scientist, looked up from her research station. If aliens are calling Earth a death world, that means they have classification systems for planetary danger levels. And if they're asking for our help, that means they think living on a death world makes us somehow special. Captain Dongmin entered the command center at that moment. He commanded the UES Indomitable, Earth's most advanced battle cruiser. The ship was designed to operate in any environment, from the radiation fields around pulsars to the crushing gravity wells near black holes. "Admiral," he said, saluting crisply, "I heard we might have visitors." "Not visitors," Hyunwoo replied. "A distress call. From aliens who seem to think we can help them with some kind of military problem." The translation computers finally produced a clearer version of the message. The voice that emerged was strange, musical in a way that suggested the speaker was not quite solid. But the words were clear enough. "To the inhabitants of the world called Sol 3, we send this desperate plea. We are the Altari Empire, members of the Galactic Council. Our worlds are under attack by an enemy that consumes everything in its path. The Vorthon swarm has destroyed 17 of our planets and shows no signs of stopping. Our military forces have fallen. The greatest fleets in the galaxy have been defeated. We call upon you, beings of the Death World, to aid us in our darkest hour. Please respond if you receive this message. Time is running out." The command center was silent for a long moment. Then Captain Dongmin spoke up. "They want us to fight aliens that have defeated entire space fleets?" "Apparently," Jiun said. "And they seem to think being from Earth gives us some kind of advantage." Staff Sergeant Tae-ho had been quiet in the corner, reviewing tactical data on his tablet. He was one of Earth's most decorated soldiers, a man who had fought in every major conflict of the past 20 years. Now he looked up with interest. "Admiral, if I may," he said, "we've spent 2 centuries assuming we were alone in the universe. We built our military to fight each other and to survive in hostile environments. But if there really are aliens out there and they're asking for our help, maybe we should find out why." Dr. Su-Jin was already working at her console, analyzing the signal. "The technology used to send this message is incredible," she said. "It crossed interstellar distances instantly, which means they have faster-than-light communication systems. If they're this advanced and still asking for our help, then whatever they're fighting must be truly dangerous." Admiral Hyunwoo walked to the center of the command center, looking out at Earth below. His planet had produced warriors, scientists, and explorers who had conquered every environment from the deepest ocean trenches to the vacuum of space. Humanity had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues, and wars. They had turned a world that was constantly trying to kill them into a paradise. "Commander Ji-un," he said finally, "how quickly can you prepare your best people for an unknown mission in an unknown environment against an unknown enemy?" Ji-un smiled, the expression of a predator scenting prey. "Give me 6 hours, sir. My people live for challenges like this." "Captain Dongmin, what's the status of the Indomitable?" "Fully operational, sir. My crew is trained for extended deep space operations. We can launch within 12 hours if needed." "Dr. Su-Jin, I want you to prepare everything we know about alien contact protocols and xenobiology. If we're going to meet aliens for the first time, I want to understand what we're dealing with." "And Staff Sergeant Tae-ho," Hyunwoo continued, "select your best soldiers, people who can adapt to any situation and fight in any environment. If these aliens are right about us being from a death world, then we might be walking into something that would kill normal troops." As the team began preparations, more messages arrived from space. Each one was more desperate than the last. Worlds were falling. Billions of aliens were dying. And somewhere in the distant galaxy, an enemy unlike anything the universe had ever seen was growing stronger with each victory. In the armory, Tae-ho selected weapons that could function in any atmosphere, armor that could protect against extreme temperatures and radiation, and equipment designed for combat in environments that would challenge even Earth's toughest soldiers. His people were used to training in conditions that would kill most humans, but he wondered what they would find among the stars. Dr. Su-Jin worked through the night studying every fragment of the alien messages. She learned that the galaxy contained dozens of intelligent species, most of them far more advanced than humanity. But for some reason, Their advanced technology and superior numbers had failed against this Vorthen swarm. Commander Ji-un assembled her team in the training center. These were men and women who had trained in the deepest parts of Earth's oceans, in the frozen wastes of Antarctica, in chambers filled with poisonous gas, and in rooms where the gravity was 10 times Earth normal. They were humanity's answer to impossible odds. Listen up, she told them. We're about to become the first humans to make contact with alien civilizations. But we're not going as diplomats or scientists. We're going as soldiers. Somewhere out there, aliens are dying because they can't stop an enemy that's destroying their worlds. They think we can help. I don't know if they're right, but we're going to find out. Captain Dong-min spent his time reviewing star charts and planning flight paths to unknown regions of space. The Indomitable was equipped with the most advanced sensors and weapons humanity had ever built. But he had no idea what they would face in alien space. As Earth's sun set over the command center, Admiral Hyun-woo made his final decision. He activated the communication system and began recording humanity's response to the alien distress call. To the Altari Empire and the Galactic Council, he said, "This is Admiral Hyun-woo of United Earth Defense Command. We have received your message and your request for military aid. While we have never encountered your species before, we understand the threat you face. Humanity is preparing to respond to your distress call. We will bring our best soldiers, our strongest chips, and our will to fight. If you believe that beings from what you call a death world can help you, then we will prove you right. We are coming. Prepare coordinates for our arrival." As the message launched toward the stars, none of the humans realized that they were about to change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. They thought they were simply answering a call for help. But the universe was about to learn what happened when Earth's children went to war. The UES Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Altari system, and Captain Dong-min immediately understood why the aliens had called for help. What he saw through the view screen was a scene from humanity's worst nightmares. The planet Crystallis hung in space like a broken jewel. Where beautiful crystal cities should have sparkled in the light of the system's twin suns, massive black ships clung to the surface like parasites. These vessels were alive, pulsing with organic rhythms as they fed on the planet below. "My God," whispered Dr. Su-jin from her position at the science station. "They're actually eating the planet." Commander Ji-un stood beside the captain, her trained eyes analyzing the tactical situation. What she saw made her jaw clench. The alien ships were enormous, some of them larger than Earth's biggest cities. But more disturbing was how they moved. They didn't fly like machines. They flowed through space like living creatures hunting prey. "Captain," called out Communications Officer Kim, "I'm receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's weak, coming from underground." "Put it through," Dong-min ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was musical but filled with pain. "Unknown ship, this is Ambassador Keel of the Altari. Please identify yourself. Are you the beings from Sol 3? This is Captain Dong-min of the United Earth Defense Command ship Indomitable. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could." There was a pause, then Keel's voice returned, now filled with desperate hope. "You came. You actually came. I did not dare to hope. Please, you must help us. The swarm has been feeding on our world for 6 cycles. My people are trapped in underground shelters, but the bioships are digging deeper every day." Staff Sergeant Taeho joined the group on the bridge, having suited up in full combat armor. His gear was designed to function in any environment, from the vacuum of space to atmospheres filled with acid or poison. "How many of those things are there?" Dr. Su-jin was studying the sensor readings. "I count 47 large bioships on the surface, with hundreds of smaller craft moving between them. But that's not the worst part. The large ships are creating some kind of network. They're sharing resources and information instantly." Commander Ji-un activated her tactical display, marking targets and analyzing attack patterns. What she saw made her understand why the galaxy's greatest fleets had failed. They're not just individual ships, she realized. They're organs in a larger organism. When they work together, they become something far more dangerous than the sum of their parts. "Ambassador Keel," Captain Dong-min said into the communicator, "we need to understand what we're fighting. Can you tell us about the Vorthen swarm?" Keel's response painted a picture of horror that chilled even the battle-hardened humans. They appeared in our outer territories without warning. At first we thought they were raiders seeking resources, but they don't take resources. They consume everything. Planets, ships, people, everything becomes part of their biomass. They grow stronger with each world they devour. What about their tactics? Jiun asked. How do they fight? They don't fight as we understand it, Keel replied. They overwhelm. Thousands of ships attack at once, controlled by a single intelligence. They adapt to any defense, learn from every battle, and never make the same mistake twice. The Nexari tried to fight them with logic and precision. The Zephyrians used chaos and unpredictability. Both failed. Dr. Sujin was scanning the bioships with every sensor the Indomitable possessed. Captain, these creatures are fascinating from a biological standpoint. They seem to be perfectly adapted for resource consumption and rapid reproduction. But there's something else. They're showing signs of confusion about our ship. What kind of confusion? They can't classify us. Their sensory organs are scanning us constantly, but they're not responding with their usual attack patterns. It's like they don't know what we are. On the planet's surface, a massive bioship suddenly turned its attention upward, its organic sensors focusing on the human vessel. Then another ship looked up. Then another. Within minutes, dozens of the creature ships were staring at the Indomitable, with what could only be described as curiosity. Taeho checked his weapon systems. They're definitely interested in us now. Ambassador Keel, Commander Ji-yoon said, we need to get you and any other survivors off the planet. Can you reach a location where we can extract you? There are 3,000 of my people in the deep shelters, Keel replied. But the bioships control the surface. No ship has been able to penetrate their defenses. Captain Dongmin smiled grimly. Ambassador, with respect, no human ship has tried. The extraction mission began immediately. The Indomitable descended toward the planet's surface, and the bioships responded exactly as Dr. Sujin had predicted. They attacked with overwhelming force, but their tactics were designed for fighting other galactic species. They weren't prepared for humans. The first wave of bioships attacked in perfect formation, their organic weapons firing energy beams that should have disabled any known spacecraft. But the Indomitable had been built to operate near pulsars and black holes. The bioship's energy weapons were powerful, but they were nothing compared to the radiation storms that human ships routinely weathered. Shields holding at 93%, reported the tactical officer. Their weapons are actually less powerful than stellar radiation. The second wave tried different tactics. Bioships attempted to ram the human vessel, using their living hulls to crush the enemy. This was a technique that had destroyed countless alien fleets. But the Indomitable had been designed to survive collisions with asteroids and debris fields. The bioship's organic hulls, optimized for efficiency and growth, shattered against human armor plating. Hull integrity at 97%, came the report. These things are breaking apart when they hit us. Commander Jion watched the battle with growing understanding. They evolved to fight civilizations that live in safe environments, she realized. Their weapons and tactics are designed for enemies that can't survive in hostile conditions. But we're from a world that's been trying to kill us for millions of years. The third wave of bioships tried to board the human vessel, launching living creatures that could survive in space and eat through ship hulls. This tactic had never failed against galactic forces. But when the creatures encountered human hull armor, made from materials designed to withstand cosmic radiation and solar flares, their bioacids simply couldn't penetrate. Staff Sergeant Taeho and his soldiers met the few creatures that did make it inside the ship. The Vorthon warriors were impressive by galactic standards. They were large, armored, and deadly, but they had never faced soldiers who trained by fighting each other in conditions that would kill most alien species instantly. The battle was over in minutes. Taeho's soldiers moved through the ship's corridors like they were conducting a training exercise, eliminating threats with efficiency that bordered on casual. The Vorthon warriors, used to facing enemies who fled from violence, couldn't understand opponents who seemed to enjoy combat. Boarding parties eliminated, Taeho reported. These things are tough, but they fight like they've never met anything that fights back harder. The Indomitable reached the planet's surface and began extracting the Altari survivors. Ambassador Keel was among the first to board, his crystal form flickering with amazement as he entered the human ship. Impossible, he whispered. You fought through the swarm like they weren't even there. Dr. Sujin was studying samples of the bioship material that had been collected during the battle. Ambassador, these creatures are perfectly designed for fighting galactic civilizations. But they have one fatal flaw. They evolved in environments with abundant resources and minimal threats. They've never learned to fight something that's used to scarcity and danger. As the last of the Altari survivors came aboard, more bioships began arriving from other parts of the system, hundreds of them, then thousands. The local swarm intelligence had realized that something new had entered its territory, something that its standard tactics couldn't handle. "Captain," reported the sensor operator, "massive bioship formations approaching from all directions. The entire local swarm fleet is converging on our position." Captain Dongmin looked at the tactical display showing thousands of enemy vessels. Any sane commander would have retreated immediately. Instead, he turned to Commander Jiun. "Commander, are your people ready for a real fight?" Jiun's smile was the expression of a predator that had just found worthy prey. "Sir, my people have been training their entire lives for a challenge like this. We're not just ready. We're excited." Ambassador Keel stared at the humans in shock. These beings from the Death World weren't afraid of the swarm. They were looking forward to fighting it. For the first time since the Vorthon had appeared in Altari space, Keel began to believe that his people might actually survive. On the bridge of the lead bioship, General Vex felt something he had never experienced in his thousands of years of conquest: uncertainty. These new creatures fought unlike anything the swarm had ever encountered. They didn't flee from superior numbers. They didn't break when faced with overwhelming force. They treated the swarm's most devastating attacks like minor inconveniences. For the first time in the Vorthon, the war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Admiral Hyunwoo had arrived with the full Earth defense fleet, turning the desperate last stand into humanity's first interstellar campaign. What the aliens saw in the following months changed their understanding of warfare forever. Captain Dong Min led the fleet's assault division, turning his ships into weapons of terror for the Vorthon swarm. The bioships had evolved to fight enemies who feared death, who avoided damage, who retreated when faced with superior numbers. Human tactics made no sense to them. All ships ramming speed, Dongmin ordered during the Battle of the Nexus Cluster. His fleet charged directly into the heart of a swarm formation, using their reinforced hulls as battering rams. The bioships, designed for efficiency rather than durability, shattered like eggs against the human vessels. The swarm tried to adapt. They reinforced their hulls, made their ships larger and stronger, but every adaptation only played into human hands. Commander Ji-Un's ground forces were landing on swarm-controlled worlds, fighting in conditions that would instantly kill most galactic species. On the toxic world of Kepler 442b, Ji-Un led her soldiers through atmosphere so corrosive that it dissolved Vorthon bioarmor in minutes. Her people fought in environmental suits that allowed them to operate in conditions worse than Venus. The swarm warriors, used to perfect atmospheric conditions, couldn't even survive on the battlefield. "This is like fighting in a gentle rain compared to the Amazon basin," Tejo reported as his squad eliminated another Vorthon nest. The aliens watched in horror as humans operated casually in environments that represented certain death to any other known species. Dr. Sujin had been studying captured swarm specimens, and her discoveries were changing the nature of the war. Working from laboratories aboard the human fleet, she developed weapons specifically designed to exploit the swarm's biological weaknesses. "The fascinating thing about the Vorthon," she explained to a gathering of allied commanders, "is that they're perfectly designed for their role. They can consume any organic or mineral resource, adapt to most defensive strategies, and reproduce rapidly. But they have one critical flaw." Ambassador Keel, now serving as liaison between the human forces and the surviving galactic governments, leaned forward. "What flaw?" "They evolved in paradise," Sujin replied. "Low gravity, perfect atmosphere, abundant resources, no natural predators. They're like a virus that's never encountered an immune system. When they meet something that's actually adapted for survival in hostile conditions, they have no defense." The proof of this theory came during the assault on the Vorthon breeding worlds in the Terminus system. The swarm had chosen this system because it offered perfect conditions for their reproduction: warm temperatures, rich atmospheres, and stable gravity. It was everything the swarm needed to thrive. It was also everything that made humans more dangerous. The human fleet arrived in the Terminus system to find it teeming with swarm activity. Thousands of bioships orbited dozens of worlds, all of them working together to process resources and create new swarm units. The sight should have been terrifying. "Look at all those targets," Commander Ji-Un said with satisfaction. The battle that followed became known as the Terminus Massacre, though not because of human casualties. The swarm threw everything they had at the invading fleet. Millions of bioships, planetary defense networks, and weapons that could crack the crust of worlds. They fought with the desperate fury of a species facing extinction. But humanity had learned something during their centuries of survival on Earth. When faced with overwhelming odds, you don't just fight harder. You fight smarter. You find the enemy's weakness and exploit it without mercy. Captain Dongmin's ships didn't engage the swarm fleet directly. Instead, they targeted the system's infrastructure. Human weapons designed to function in the radiation fields around dying stars turned the system's sun into a weapon. Solar flares, artificially triggered, swept through space at nearly the speed of light. The bioships, with their organic components and delicate biological systems, couldn't survive the radiation storm. Millions of swarm vessels died in minutes, their living crews cooked by energies that human ships weathered easily. On the planet's surface, Teho's soldiers were conducting operations that defied galactic understanding of military tactics. They fought inside active volcanoes, using the magma flows to flush out swarm nests. They battled in the crushing depths of alien oceans, using pressure that would implode normal spacecraft as a tactical advantage. "Sir," one of his sergeants reported, "the enemy is retreating into deeper cave systems. The atmospheric pressure down there is about 30 times Earth normal." "Perfect," Teho replied, checking his equipment. "At least it's not as bad as the Mariana Trench. Move out." The Altari survivors watched in amazement as humans operated in conditions that represented instant death to their species. Ambassador Keel found himself studying these strange beings, who seemed immune to the environmental hazards that limited every other known civilization. "How do you survive such conditions?" he asked Dr. Sujin during one of their research sessions. Sujin smiled. "We don't just survive them, Ambassador. We were born in them. Earth taught us that the universe is trying to kill us every second of every day. Our planet has asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, ice ages, gamma-ray bursts, and a dozen other things that could wipe out life. We learn to adapt or die." "But the swarm adapts too," Keel pointed out. "No," Sujin corrected. "The swarm optimizes. They make themselves more efficient at doing what they already do. But adaptation means learning to do completely new things, to survive in conditions you were never designed for. That's what humans do. That's what Earth taught us." The proof came in the final battle of the Terminus system. General Vex, the supreme commander of the local swarm forces, had retreated to the system's most heavily defended world. Here, surrounded by millions of bioships and protected by weapons that could shatter moons, he prepared for a siege that could last for years. The siege lasted 6 hours. The humans didn't attack the planet's defenses. They didn't engage the bioship fleets. Instead, they did something that no galactic military had ever attempted. They changed the planet's environment. Using mining charges originally designed for asteroid operations, human engineers triggered a chain reaction in the planet's core. Within hours, the world's atmosphere began to change. Toxic gases emerged from the depths. The magnetic field fluctuated wildly, and radiation levels spiked to levels that would kill most organic life. For the swarm, it was a death sentence. Their bioships began failing as their organic components couldn't handle the changing conditions. Their ground forces suffocated in the toxic atmosphere. General Vex himself died when his command center's biological life support systems failed. But for the humans, it was just another day at the office. Their equipment was designed to function in any environment. Their soldiers were trained to fight in conditions that made the transformed planet seem comfortable. "Environmental modification complete," reported the engineering team. "Planet now classified as Class 8 Deathworld, suitable for human operations." As the swarm forces in the system collapsed, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in their species' history, Vorthon bioships began to retreat not from superior numbers or better technology, but from an environment they couldn't survive. The psychological impact on the remaining swarm forces was devastating. They were used to being the ultimate predators, the species that consumed everything in its path. But now they had encountered something that turned their greatest strength into a weakness. Dr. Sujin's final breakthrough came when she managed to capture and study a living swarm command node. What she discovered changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about the Vorthon. "They're not actually a single species," she announced to the Allied command staff. "They're a collection of different organisms that have been optimized for specific functions. but the optimization process makes them incredibly vulnerable to environmental changes. What does that mean for the war? Admiral Hyunwoo asked. It means we don't have to defeat them, Sujin replied with a smile that would have terrified the swarm commanders if they could have seen it. We just have to make the galaxy too hostile for them to survive in. As reports came in from across the war zone, a pattern became clear. Wherever humans operated, the swarm not only retreated but began to die out entirely. The Deathworlders weren't just winning battles. They were transforming entire systems into environments where only they could fight. Effectively, the galaxy was beginning to understand that Earth had sent more than soldiers to fight the swarm. They had sent ecosystem engineers, beings who could turn any environment into their advantage and their enemy's doom. General Vex's replacement, studying the human tactics from a safe distance, made a report that would change swarm strategy forever. Recommendation: avoid all contact with Sol 3 species. Environmental conditions around their forces are incompatible with swarm survival. Suggest immediate retreat from all systems showing human presence. For the first time in their existence, the Vorthon swarm was learning to fear. The final hunt for the Vorthon swarm led humanity to the edge of known space, where ancient stars died in spectacular explosions and the laws of physics bent under extreme conditions. Here, in a region that galactic civilizations had marked as completely uninhabitable, the swarm had built their original nest worlds. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, now flagship of the largest human fleet ever assembled. Around them, space itself seemed angry. Radiation storms that could cook a planet swept between dying stars. Gravity fields shifted without warning. The background temperature was barely above absolute zero. Perfect conditions for a final battle, Commander Ji-un observed, checking her environmental suits. Her soldiers were preparing for combat in conditions that would have been considered impossible by any other species in the galaxy. The swarm had chosen this region for the same reason they had once seemed unstoppable. No other known species could survive here long enough to mount an attack. The radiation alone would kill most galactic life forms within hours. The gravity fluctuations would tear apart normal spacecraft. The temperature variations would freeze or boil anything not specifically designed for extreme conditions. But humans weren't like other galactic species. Dr. Sujin, Admiral Hyunwoo called out. What are we looking at? Sujin studied her sensors, her eyes bright with scientific curiosity. Admiral, this is remarkable. The swarm didn't just build their nests here. They terraformed this entire region to match their original home environment. Look at these readings. The tactical display showed dozens of worlds, each one surrounded by artificial atmosphere generators, gravity manipulators, and radiation shields. The swarm had spent millions of years turning this deadly region of space into a paradise where they could breed and grow without interference. They've created perfect conditions for themselves, Sujin continued. Stable gravity, controlled radiation, optimal temperature. It's like they built a bubble of safety in the most dangerous part of the galaxy. Captain Dongmin smiled grimly. Then we popped the bubble. The assault began with tactics that would have seemed insane to any other military force. Instead of avoiding the region's natural hazards, the humans used them as weapons. They triggered solar flares from dying stars, redirecting the energy toward swarm installations. They destabilized gravity fields, turning the swarm's own protective systems against them. Staff Sergeant Taeho led ground forces onto worlds where the atmosphere was liquid methane, and the gravity changed direction every few minutes. His soldiers adapted to conditions that challenged even their extreme training, while swarm defenders died simply from environmental exposure. The enemy is retreating to their deepest shelters, Taeho reported, during the assault on the primary nest world. They can't operate in their own territory once we've removed their environmental controls. The psychological impact on the swarm was complete. They had built their greatest stronghold in a place where they believed no enemy could reach them. But the humans weren't just reaching them. They were thriving in conditions that the swarm had specifically chosen to avoid. Ambassador Keel, now commanding a joint alien fleet supporting the human forces, watched the battle with amazement. In our histories, he told Admiral Hyunwoo, we have records of hundreds of species that attempted to destroy the swarm. All failed because they tried to fight the swarm on the swarm's terms. You are the first to make the swarm fight on your terms. The final confrontation came in the heart of the swarm's oldest nest world, a planet that had been the birthplace of their species millions of years ago, here in caverns that had never known natural light. The last of the swarm leadership made their final stand. General Corax, the supreme commander of all swarm forces, faced the human assault with the desperation of a species watching its own extinction. His forces had evolved over millions of years to be the perfect predators. They had consumed thousands of worlds and billions of life forms. They had been the terror of the galaxy for eons, but they had never faced anything like humanity. The battle in the deep caverns lasted for days. The swarm threw everything they had at the invading humans. Bioweapons that could dissolve armor, creatures that could survive in vacuum, weapons that could alter the local laws of physics. They fought with the fury of a species that had never known defeat. But Commander Jiyun's soldiers moved through the alien stronghold like they were on a training exercise. They fought in zero gravity while acid rain fell upward due to gravitational anomalies. They battled creatures in environments where the air itself was poisonous and the ground was radioactive. These conditions are actually pretty mild compared to some of our training scenarios, one of her sergeants reported. At least we don't have to worry about solar radiation or cosmic ray exposure down here. Dr. Sujin made her final discovery in General Corax's command chamber. Among the swarm's most protected records, she found the truth about their species' origin. What she learned changed everything. "Admiral," she called over the communication system, "you need to see this. The swarm aren't natural evolution. They're artificial. Some ancient civilization created them as the perfect life form for resource extraction. That's why they're so specialized and why they can't adapt to truly hostile conditions." "Artificial?" Hyunwoo asked. "Think of them as living tools," Sujin explained. "Designed to be incredibly efficient at what they do, but completely helpless when faced with conditions their creators never imagined. The ancient civilization that made them lived in perfect environments. They never thought their creation would need to survive in places like this." The revelation explained everything: the swarm's inability to truly adapt, their perfect optimization for specific tasks, their complete helplessness when faced with environmental extremes. They were the ultimate expression of a civilization that had never known hardship. Humanity, shaped by millions of years of surviving on a world that constantly tried to kill them, was their natural opposite. General Corax's death came not in glorious battle, but from simple environmental failure. As human forces destroyed the cavern's life support systems, the swarm commander suffocated in atmosphere that was perfectly breathable to humans, but toxic to his artificially optimized biology. With their leadership destroyed and their nest worlds uninhabitable, the remaining swarm forces scattered to the edges of the galaxy. Some small groups survived, but they were no longer the unstoppable force that had terrorized civilizations. They had become scavengers hiding in the dark spaces between stars. The victory celebration was held aboard the Galactic Council's new flagship, a vessel jointly designed by human and alien engineers. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to thank the humans who had saved the galaxy from extinction. But Admiral Hyunwoo's speech surprised them all. "We didn't come here just to fight your war," he announced to the assembled delegates. "We came because civilizations were dying and someone needed to help. Now that the immediate threat is over, we're not going home." Counselor Thane, the ancient keeper of records, spoke for many when he asked, "What do you mean?" "The galaxy is a dangerous place," Commander Jiyun explained. "The swarm wasn't the first threat to emerge from the dark spaces, and it won't be the last. You need guardians. Beings who can go to the places where your species can't survive and deal with threats before they become unstoppable." Dr. Sujin had already begun cataloging the galaxy's most dangerous regions, places where new threats might emerge. Her surveys revealed dozens of systems that could spawn the next galactic crisis, regions too hostile for normal civilizations to monitor or explore. "We propose the creation of the Galactic Guardian Corps," Admiral Hyunwoo continued, "a joint force led by humans but including volunteers from all species. We'll patrol the dangerous regions, explore the unknown sectors, and make sure that nothing like the swarm ever threatens peaceful civilizations again." The debate that followed was intense. Some delegates worried about giving humans too much power. Others questioned whether any species should have the authority to police the galaxy. But in the end, the memory of burning worlds and dying civilizations made the choice clear. Captain Dong Min was given command of the new Guardian fleet, a collection of human and alien vessels designed to operate in the galaxy's most hostile environments. His ships would patrol regions of space that had been considered completely inaccessible to galactic civilization. Staff Sergeant Tae-ho established training centers on 12 different worlds, teaching alien soldiers how to survive in conditions that their species had never imagined. His graduates became the elite forces of their respective militaries, soldiers who could operate anywhere in the galaxy. Ambassador Keel returned to his rebuilt homeworld, but he carried with him new knowledge about the universe. The galaxy was not a safe place where civilizations could grow and prosper without threat. It was a dangerous frontier that required constant vigilance and the willingness to fight in impossible conditions. Years later, when threats emerged from the dark spaces between galaxies, it was human-led Guardian Corps ships that met them first. When ancient weapons awakened in the galaxy's core, it was human soldiers who went into regions of space that should have been instantly fatal and shut them down. The galaxy learned that they,